I've been on some lists, but I will say I've never talked to the senator or anybody with the senator's team or anything about that. And I have it's nice to be mentioned. My mom likes it on my list, I'll tell you that. But I just don't think that's going to happen. I think he's got a lot of good people to consider. He'll make the decision that he thinks is best. I certainly didn't endorse him and want to get anything out of it. I just want to help him win. And I think probably the best way I can help him win is just work right here in Virginia, because I think it's going to be very competitive. Yes, over here on the side.
Speak up.
Can you speak a little bit louder? Sure, let me take this one. Yeah, that is right. The question was there a meeting between Senator Obama and Senator Clinton last night? After the rally that we did in Manassas, they did have a meeting to talk about, trying to bring the party together to unify everybody. I don't know how it went, but the fact that they did it so soon after Tuesday afternoon is a very positive sign. Questions?
Governor,
oh yeah, please. I think your principal can ask a question, can't you?
Concern in rural counties about it.
Right. Yep.
Transportation versus
Sure. Your principal raised a question about education funding, and I'm having a special session of the legislature in 2.5 weeks on transportation. So spend money on transportation, spend money on education. Traditionally in Virginia, we've had sort of two budgets. There's the transportation budget, and there's the general fund budget for everything else, especially education and healthcare. And it's good to have those budgets separately, because as somebody explained to me, it was set up that way so that asphalt wouldn't compete against school roads. So we tend to have revenue sources that are related to transportation, like a gas tax, and just earmark those into the transportation fund. And then the other revenue sources, income tax, corporate income tax, etc., are put in the general fund. I feel strongly that we should keep the budget separate, that we should be using general fund money for transportation. If we need transportation dollars, we should do it with very specific revenue sources that are tied to transportation. Because I do believe if you start to have transportation compete with education, education can be a loser, and education is the single most important investment that we make. This year we just completed a budget. We write a budget that's a 2-year budget. And it was a very tough year because revenues for families and businesses are slow, and so they are for the state too. So our revenue was very, very tight, but I'm happy to say that we fully funded the educational standards, what we call the standards of quality. The budget that I wrote did that, increasing funding for local school districts by about $1.2 billion over the 2-year period. We kept all at-risk program monies. There had been some effort to carve those down. We kept those in. And I'm going to make sure that I'm going to do everything I can to solve the transportation funding challenge we have, but I'm not going to do it by carving away funds from education or healthcare priorities. I won't do it. Any other questions? Got a second one up here. All right, TJ. Oh, well, thank you. Well, good question. I'm trying to figure that out. TJ asked me, after I'm done being governor, what's next? I'm 50, so when I finish governor, about 1.5 years, I'll be 51. And my wife and I have 3 kids, so our oldest has just graduated from high school, but I still have a sophomore and a 7th grader. She'll be a 4th. I will have been in public office for 16 years when I graduated. I never thought I'd go into politics. City councilman, mayor, lieutenant governor. So I've had kind of a different last 16 years than I thought I would have. It's been great, but I think I want to do something that is a little more maybe out of the intense public eye while my 2 other children finish high school. So I think what I'll probably try to do is either do something in the nonprofit world or in the education world, probably right in Richmond. Who knows? I had a feeling when I was running for governor, frankly, that it was the last race I would ever run. I don't need to say never. I might, in 5 years, decide differently, but I would love being governor. But I think, maybe doing something in the nonprofit world or the education world might be what's next for me. My wife and I have decided that we'll start to think about that in the spring of 2009, and we'll figure it out. So maybe I can take one more before I head back home. Oh, I'm gonna get off easy. Well, yes, please. Sure. Lindsay asked a question for people who are young who might be interested in going into politics. What advice would I give? And maybe in particular, Lindsay said, how about internship prospects for politicians? Two pieces of advice that I would give would be, one, if you're all interested in doing it, we need good people to think about going into political life. Political life means school board of superintendents, the legislature, sheriff, constitutional officers, Congress, governor. There's all kinds of public service to do. An awful lot of good people decide, oh, politics is dirty, it's hard. When you're in the newspaper, if you make a mistake, everybody's on your case. There's a lot of reasons why people don't go in there. But I think good people should really think about it. So the first thing I would say is I would encourage you. The second thing I would say is I think in some weird way I benefited in politics by not wanting to go into politics and making a decision later in life. Because I never thought I'd be in politics. I was a lawyer. I was practicing law in Richmond for about 10 years. And one day I got mad at my city council. I ran for city council. That's how I got started. But when I ran, I had a life that wasn't politics. I knew something about a profession. I was deeply involved in my church and community organizations. I see some people go into politics who all they do is politics. They don't really have any other real world experience to bring to the table. And I think what you ought to do is, decide what your profession or career is going to be and get really good at that. Get involved in your community and organizations that matter to you, or your church or neighborhood organizations or whatever. And then once you have a base of kind of experience to bring to the table, then get into politics that way. In the legislature of Virginia, we have lawyers, but we also have one of my favorite legislators who retired recently and just passed away, was a tree surgeon. We have veterinarians, we have doctors, we have realtors, we have teachers, former principals. And in a group like that, if you have people from all kinds of different experiences, that really is a good thing. So that would be the advice I would give you for politics. Now about internships, all kinds of internship programs. If you're at all interested this summer, there's state campaigns for Senate, Democrat, Republican candidates, a lot of local campaigns, congressional campaigns, presidential campaigns. So there's huge volunteer opportunities this summer. When you go to college, community college for 4 year, or move to a community work, or stay right here, there will be opportunities to volunteer. We have a wonderful internship program in the governor's office.